everybody, in today's video I would love to show you how to make one of my favorite recipes, and it's called the winter boosting, or I should say immune boosting winter syrup. I should actually call it fall syrup because it's really in fall that where we start falling with our health and everything kind of falls apart. Our immune system really takes a real beating. So what I want to show you is just this lovely recipe that you don't have to just use it or take it when you are sick, but it's actually a really amazing preventative concoction that uses a lot of antiviral, antibacterial, anti everything, but except for not anti your immune system. It's gonna boost your immune system by dealing with the bugs, and whether it's actually bacterial, viral, or whether yeast is the cause of your immune system getting suppressed. And believe it or not, a lot of times suppression of the immune system can happen due to yeast infections too, including candida. So, I'm gonna show you how to make it from scratch. And just heads up, it does require 2 weeks to a month because this is like something that I've been infusing for the past 2 weeks, just about over. And I'm gonna be showing you like the sped up version of me just like quickly then straining that, and then once I strain it, then I'll show you how to make that into a syrup. Now, some of you might be familiar with the term fire cider, and this is really the premise of this recipe is like the fire cider equivalent. But I wanted to, make it a little bit more palatable because fire cider on its own is pretty full on. And if you have sensitive buds, then you might find it a little bit too overwhelming. So let's get started. Let me just show you, like, first of all, what we're gonna be using. All you need is just a mason jar. And we're gonna be putting all our lovely ingredients right in here. And then we're gonna top it up with apple cider vinegar to make that into our concoction. Hey, so post your questions, whatever questions you have, post them on, bring them on, say hello, tell us where you're from. And what I'm gonna do is once I get through the recipe, then I'm gonna go over to the questions. And our lovely Jean is helping me today, our assistant, and she's gonna post them, and I'm gonna get to them in no time. So let me start off with like the biggest item, which is gonna be your onion, and hopefully I'm not gonna get to cry too much. One of the beautiful things about this recipe is that, you don't have to follow like any super restricted, ingredient amounts. In fact, if some things don't agree with you, then just don't use them at all. Not a biggie. In Poland, where originally I was born, one of the things that we use for stimulating the immune system as a natural antibiotic is actually we use onion juice and garlic juice, and you drink a tablespoon of that every couple of hours. And I can tell you as a kid, obviously you hate that kind of stuff, but it's one of the most amazing things you can do for yourself because it really works. So here's my problem. Obviously my vessel is not big enough. Let me just get another larger vessel. That's my bag. I did not anticipate for the onions. Let me just do a quick rinse of my other vessel. So basically, the onion's gonna take up quite a bit of space, as you can see, and I want to have space for other things too. So let's use that. Okay, that feels way better, right? All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, I'm just gonna go by the properties. So the next really great antiviral and actually it's all antimicrobial is gonna be your garlic. The cool thing about the garlic, actually the fastest way of dealing with garlic is that instead of chopping it and doing all that stuff, what I like to use is a pestle mortar, and then what you do is you basically bang it out and crush it in there. Because really what you want is you want to crush one. You can, if you have the time, you have nothing else to do, you can spend 20 minutes chopping up your garlic. I'm not gonna do that because I'm not the most patient person. So just boom, boom. I'm using the whole head. And here's the thing, you guys, this is one of the beauty of modifying recipes is that, for example, if you have SIBO and you can't do garlic, then don't put it in. It's just as simple as that. But it definitely will take away some of the antiviral properties. Now, do you need to use the skin? You can. It's not gonna do it any bad if you use the skins in. So, just for the simplicity here, I'm just gonna put the whole thing in. So that was a whole head of garlic that just went in here, okay? And then what we're gonna do next is we're gonna look at the horseradish. So a lot of times people ask me, like, oh, you mean like the horseradish in a store in a jar? No, it's actually a root. So this is what horseradish looks like right here. I get mine from like Whole Foods, and a lot of health food stores have horseradish as well. So just go and ask them if they have that. I'm going to use a bigger knife because it is a pretty hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm just slicing it. Let me do a little zoom in on my hands. I'm basically just slicing it, and we're not going to use the whole thing. One of the reasons why I like using pestle and mortar is because it does, release a lot of the oils from the different ingredients. So what you can do is you can pound it a little bit just to release the oils, and you can smell that right away. And that goes in here as well. Okay. The next thing, actually, we're gonna still continue using that, is we're gonna have some ginger. We're gonna put in some ginger. Ginger, as you know, is not only gonna help your digestive system, but it's also very warming. A lot of times, when we have a fever, fever is a sign of the body actually fighting something, and elevates the body temperature so that we can get rid of the infection. And so, interestingly, ginger is one of the things that when you have fever is going to help you bring the body temperature up for a while, also making you go for the heat to go into your skin, to the outside, right? It's actually a good thing, because that's going to help you, if you're already sick, it's going to help to increase the body temperature so much so that we can then get rid of the infection much quicker. So you can either chop it up, or if you have pestle and mortar, I love doing that because it releases a lot of the oils. I'm gonna use a little bit more. Now the recipe, Jeannie, if we can post the recipe, we actually have a recipe for you. The beauty of this recipe is that, unlike baking, when you really have to be very careful with, you can't be improvising too much, because even different types of flours and the amounts make a difference, because it really is chemistry. There's a lot of chemistry here too, but it's not going to screw up your recipe if you will, So I want to give you an example. For instance, one of the ways you can improvise. I could get organic turmeric. So this is your turmeric root, right, that I'm using right here. And so I can use a fresh one, but let's say if your store doesn't have organic turmeric, then, you might then use dry turmeric, right? So this is, I like to use dry turmeric. I never buy it in powder form because powder gets oxidized really quickly, but you can buy it in chunks forms like this, and then grind it up as you need it when you want to use it, let's say some beverage or whatever you're using turmeric for. So because I have fresh, that's why I'm just gonna use fresh. It does extract the oils quicker from a fresh one. Oh my gosh, just look at the color. Just want to show you the color. It's just like orange, and it's gonna color our it's gonna bring some of that orangish flavor to our syrup. Let me take that off, and then another one. Again, how much you use is absolutely up to you. And the reason why we're using turmeric is because it really, everybody knows it's anti-inflammatory, but it's also a wonderful way of stimulating your digestion. All right, so that's, I think one more thing I have. For those of you who are familiar with osha root, I do have some osha left, and so I'm gonna use that. Osha is an incredible immune stimulant, and it helps with opening up the lungs. It also is used in Colorado. A lot of our syrups for coughs and such use osha, so I'm gonna use, it's a very distinct flavor, smell that it has, and it's definitely gonna empower, it's gonna pass that on to the whole concoction, but I find it lovely. All right, a few other things. Now, you can put a jalapeno in. A lot of the classical apple, the fire ciders do use jalapeno. And so I don't have a problem with nightshades. So I'm gonna use the jalapeno. If you don't do nightshades, then just don't put it in. You're not missing out on that much. It's gonna definitely add a lot of spiciness in it. If you wanna be careful, if you feel to find, like for example, jalapenos are too hot for you, then just remove the seeds. No, it's not Oshura, it's Osha, Osha, Osha roots. And so yeah, that's one of the things that we use a lot in Colorado, here in New Mexico. There we go. So that's that. Let me remove that. Oh my goodness, I can already feel it on my my face, even on my eyes. That's a strong one. All right. Now a couple of other things you can put in that I think are very fun. One is gonna be orange. One of the cool things about an orange is that it's gonna add a little bit of sweetness to our concoction here, which, you know, is gonna be obviously very pungent from all that onions and garlic and such. Now you can put a whole orange in, or, so I don't have space for two, I'm just gonna use half of it. The other thing you can do is just peel the skin, right, off the orange and then put it in here, because really that's one of the main things that we want, is the skin. That's gonna make a big of a difference. A couple of other things I want to share with you. You can easily put in cinnamon, which is a wonderful blood stabilizer. Okay, so again, as you can see, I'm just going to show you here, quality of cinnamon really makes a big difference. I want to show you just to see how, hopefully that shows up on camera, like how there's like layers in that cinnamon, right? And I can very easily break it, right? And when I do, it's got these layers and layers. Now this is called Ceylon cinnamon, which is the true cinnamon. And the reason why I highly encourage for you to use that versus the stuff that is available in typical stores is because it is significantly low in coumarin. Coumarin is a substance that can affect the liver in a negative way. And when I say normal cinnamon, I'm talking here about cinnamon cassia, which is like the most common cinnamon you can find in a lot of stores. And I'll say, you know, if you can just pay a little bit more money, get the true cinnamon, also known as Cinnamonum verum, which is the true cinnamon, also known as Ceylon cinnamon, right? And really wonderful product, way better. Excuse me. I'm gonna put two more things in. One is gonna be cloves, so not cloves of garlic, but actual spice clove. Excuse me, and the cough is coming from that chili. I'm putting in at about 10 cloves in here. You can crush it, but you don't have to. Excuse me. A couple of other things you can put in is fennel seed. I love it because, you know, this syrup is really multifunctional if you think about it, right? Yes, like we can use it to, you know, to prevent a cough, like just now what I'm having, but it can also be great for your digestion. It's just a really great way of getting your digestive juices going, you know, and with all that, apple cider vinegar is also hugely alkalizing, right? So it's just an all-around amazing beverage. So how much fennel seed? Well, let's see. Again, this is, like I said, this recipe is cool because, you know, you can really improvise so much. So I'm gonna do like a good, I'm gonna just do maybe a couple of tablespoons. And in order to release more of the oils, the volatile oils, I can already smell it, like, you know, it's that licoricey flavor. And even if you don't really like licorice, it's okay, because you're not gonna taste it all that much. It's gonna be more of a hidden secret power, is that it's gonna bring in fennel here. And fennel is an amazing digestive aid. It's also carminative, which means it's gonna help you reduce gas. So if you have a little bit of this drink after having a meal, then this is gonna help you as well. Oh, one more thing before we put the apple cider vinegar in here. I want to show you, I got some elderberries, so dry elderberries that are local here from a local herbalist, from Rebecca's Apothecary. And I like supporting local businesses, but it's also because this is also going to be great to, when you have local, it's going to have a lot more local constituents to help you boost your immune system. Anything that's locally available is always going to be better food as compared to bringing it from somewhere else. I'm going to put in probably like 1/4 cup of elderberries, and elderberries, you may know, is also an incredible immune boosting herb. I forgot to bring out black pepper. That's another thing you can put in here as well. That goes really well. Okay, so now we are ready to basically start infusing, right? And really it's as simple as pouring it apple cider vinegar. I'm using Bragg's here, apple cider vinegar with the mother. Let me do a little bit of a stir so that make sure that we get the bottom, and there we go. It goes right to the top. And this, dear ladies, is basically your beautiful concoction that will take about, give it between 2 weeks to 4 weeks to infuse, okay? And this is what's gonna look like 2 weeks later. So because I really want to show you today, and we are going into a season now when everybody's getting sick, so that's why I didn't want to wait any longer, another 2 weeks to make the best out of it. But even 2 weeks, I mean, when I'm smelling it, it's already so incredibly potent. So please do use a label your concoction, put the date on, because otherwise you're not going to remember. I'm going to put that aside for now, and I want to show you. So 2 weeks later, you have this guy here. What we're going to do is really simply strain it, and there is then 2 options. You can either use the strained version, that's perfectly fine, to transfer to some kind of a vessel, or you can combine it. Let me just do a better job at securing. So I'm using a cheesecloth. A lot of people always ask, where do you just get the cheesecloth from? Most of the health food stores would sell it, or you can just get it online. And read the reviews, because a lot of times cheesecloths basically break really easily. So you want to get those that have really great reviews. I can smell that orange in here. I did not use a full orange in this concoction. I used just orange peel, and even that I can smell this. Okay, so all we need to do next is just strain it. There's a lot of goodness. If I was to do this again, I'll probably do it in batches, because I feel like there's a lot more that I can get out by doing smaller batches. I'm gonna do that a little bit more later when I finish this video. But basically, that's your base of your winter syrup. Now, when I say base, it's perfectly fine for you to use this. And the way you're using it, you're basically doing 2 tablespoons a day in a little bit of glass of water. You can just chug it down straight if you are hardcore. It's really absolutely up to you. Use it as a preventative. Use it while like you feel you're coming down with something. You can do it before a meal. You can do it after a meal. It's absolutely up to you. Now, the reason why we call it a syrup is because I wanted to make it a little bit more palatable for some of you. And one way to do this is to combine it with honey. Honey, I don't need to tell you how incredible properties it has. It's anti-allergenic. It helps people with allergies. It helps boost your immune system. It tastes really good, right? Even kids would want to then drink this with no problems. So I'm using local organic honey that comes from Big Bees. It's in central part of Colorado, just 4 hours away from here. You always want to support local, bee makers, honey makers, just because it is going to be having a lot more constituents that's going to help your own immune system. So, selfishly it's for you, and then for the greater good, you're also supporting local economy, people who really need your business. So a lot of farmers markets will sell that, and so that's a great way to do it. Now, how much honey to put in, it varies a little bit. So in order to preserve this syrup for an entire year without putting it in the fridge, you do it a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So right now, if I look at this thing here, I at my Pyrex measuring a vessel, it's got almost 3 cups. Okay, so that means I'll probably have to put in the entire honey in here. I'm not gonna do that because I'm not really interested in preserving for the entire year, neither does it have to be outside. If you plan to use it within the next 1 or 2 months, and by the way, this is also makes it a beautiful present you can make for someone as a gift, right? Then just putting a quarter of this amount, meaning in here, and this will be probably less than a cup of honey, is all you need. And then it then becomes more of a sweetener and brings in the properties of the honey, but it doesn't work as well as a preservative. So I just want to be very clear, if you're using just a little bit of honey, don't expect the concoction to last for the entire year. Again, you know, with fire cider, the thing is that you have so many antivirals in here that it's not gonna go like super moldy on you. You know, apple cider vinegar, obviously you can keep this out in the cabinet for probably for years without going bad. And so the same thing is gonna happen here. You don't need to worry too much about it. Now, let me grab I'm gonna just stir it in. So I'm totally gonna eyeball how much honey I'm gonna put in here, but probably gonna put half of this jar. There we go. All right. That's always the hardest part, is to, okay, that wasn't too bad. And the next thing you do is you just want to give it a good, you want to give it a good stir. This is where the honey is gonna, the other thing you can do is put it in a Vitamix or some kind of a blender and stop blending. And it's gonna take a while for it to dissolve because the honey was in a cold cabinet. And we've been having some cold nights, but it's already beginning to dissolve. You know, you can start seeing how the acid cuts through it. So I've been making this as a gift for a lot of my friends who are like, I think I'm coming down with something. And then I'm like, I think I've got something here for you. So I've been making elderberry syrup. You might have seen the video I was making. I made elderberry syrup the other day. I think that was a week ago. So you can see the honey is already getting almost completely dissolved. The color is slightly changed to has become a little bit more brown. So I'm gonna do a little bit of tasting. At the end of the day, you know, we are making all these concoctions to, yes, support our health, but I always believe that it has to taste really good too. So let's see what that's like. Oh my gosh, wow, that orange really pops. And I will say, I will do a little bit more honey, especially because if I'm doing it as a gift, some of my friends have kids, and I know kids are going to be wanting more honey. So I'm just adding a little bit more honey. And I have to tell you, like, you know, I don't know about you, but like drinking straight up apple cider vinegar, I just feel like, blah. Like that's just too much of an ask. But when you make this with the honey and with all these infusions, all these amazing herbs, it just feels like so nourishing with whatever you're putting in your body, but it also just feels, it just tastes really, really good, just amazingly good. So, you know, it's just a double benefit of all of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm then gonna, you know, you can buy these really nice brown vessels and nice containers. Put a label on it with your handwriting on it, and gift it to someone. I can't tell you how much people are touched when you make something and you gift them that versus going and buying stuff from a supermarket. It really makes a very big difference. Let me just grab. Will I give you an example? This is and by the way, all of this is called oxymel. So a combination of vinegar, apple cider vinegar with honey. That's the herbal term for this is oxymel. So what we are just making here right now is oxymel. We didn't put it in the title of the recipe because I know most people don't know what an oxymel is, but everybody knows what a syrup is. So I want to give you an example. Like this is a bottle. You know, this is a bottle that I just bought from this farmer's market of an oxymel somebody had made. And what I love about it is like how beautiful it is, you know, and then you can just buy labels on Amazon and then label it nicely. And then have that as a, you know, wonderful present. So really the next thing we need to do is, you know, we're gonna be basically putting that into some kind of a vessel, and where you're gonna be storing it. And like I said earlier, you don't have to keep it in the fridge because it's not gonna go bad. Apple cider vinegar doesn't go bad. And with all that honey that we've put in here as well, is gonna preserve it pretty well. You can do 2 tablespoons a day, but you can also do more. I'll probably end up doing more because it tastes so incredibly good. All right, so what do you guys think? Isn't it just absolutely beautiful? I mean, just look at the color, right? Like there is this, yeah, it is murky, but it's also just infused with all this incredible goodness that's antibacterial, antiviral. It is antimicrobial just in general, right? It's gonna take care of a lot of the bugs that are currently just really all around us, not serving us the best, and it's gonna help your immune system. So I hope you find this helpful. The recipe, we've posted the link of the recipe, and you know, head out to the store this weekend, and hopefully you can start this weekend. So let me take a look at what questions have come in, and then we can close up for the weekend. Lucy is asking, is there a concern with boosting the immune system if you have an autoimmune disease? Actually, on the contrary, that will actually help you a lot. Absolutely not. When I say boost your immune system, it doesn't trigger an autoimmune disease. Yeah. Rhonda is saying, my grandpa used to take bites of onions like it was a bite of an apple. LOL. He was very healthy, lived to 95, Southern Illinois. Yeah, there you go. Melody is saying, you're a very good teacher. Thank you. Tabitha is saying, I can't wait to make this. Awesome. Rhonda is saying, apple cider vinegar is horrible. I agree. I think so too. But that's when you combine it with this, it's like a different, you know, it doesn't, you kind of forget it's apple cider vinegar in there. Let me just do it. Wow. You know, that orange, I can definitely taste the onion. Not so much actually. Sweetness is the sweetness of the onion, not the, you know, not the pungency of an onion. A bit of cardamom. So I used cardamom here before. Lastly, I just want to say, be creative. Just, you know, if you feel like, for example, cardamom is something you want to put in, right? You want to put in more turmeric, do so. It's your recipe. You own it. Let your creativity flow with that. Wishing you a really wonderful weekend, and I'll hopefully see you next week.